Hey everyone, welcome back to a new post today, and let's continue with the September current affairs. But before that, there has been a gap with my post with regard to current affairs for preliminaries, and that's due to some technical issue, and I assure you that it will be continuous from now onwards. So let's look at the first issue from where we stopped. So the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Affairs change has issued a notification to form integrated offices for the Forest Survey of India, the National Tiger Conservation Authority, the Wildlife Crime Control Bureau, and the Central Zoo Authority. Let's have a quick review of what exactly are these bodies, because they are regulatory bodies. So the Forest Survey of India was founded in 1981, and it conducts survey and assessment for the forest resources in the country. It is headquartered in Dehradun, in Uttarakhand, and it is under the authority of the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. Now the Forest Survey of India conducts forest surveys and studies and researches, periodically monitoring the changes in land, forest resources, and also presents data for the national planning. It was founded in 1981, and it is the successor to the Pre-Investment Survey of Forest Resources, a project initiated in 1965 by the Government of India in sponsorship with the Food and Agriculture Organization and the UNDP. In its report in 1976, the National Commission of Agriculture recommended creation of the National Forest Survey of India, and it assesses the forest cover for every 2 years, that is biennial, by digital interpretation of the remote sensing satellite data, and also publishes a biennial report called as the State of the Forest report beginning from 1987. We have 16 now of these reports. The National Tiger Conservation Authority, Project Tiger, of which we celebrated as 50 years, was created. The National Tiger Conservation Authority was created in 2005 under the Wildlife Protection Act, and it was established following the recommendation by a Tiger Task Force. The Prime Minister of India then established it to recognize the management of Project Tiger and the tiger resources in India. Now, the Wildlife Protection Act of 1972 was amended in 2006 to provide for the constitution of this authority responsible for implementation of Project Tiger, that was launched in 1973 by the then Indira Gandhi government to protect the endangered tigers. The National Tiger Conservation Authority is set up under the chairmanship of the Minister of Environment and Forests, and the authority has 8 experts and professionals which has qualifications and experience in wildlife conservation and welfare of the people, including the tribals, apart from 3 members of the Parliament whom will be elected by the House of People and by the Council of States. The Wildlife Crime Control Bureau is a statutory body, and it was established under the Wildlife Protection Act amendment in 2006, and it functions under the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, and it came into force in 2007. It is operational since 2008, and it fights transboundary environment crime. The Central Zoo Authority is a body of the Government of India responsible for oversight and management of the zoos in the country. It is an affiliate member of an international organization called as WASA, or the World Association of Zoos and Aquariums. The Central Zoo Authority was formed to bring Indian zoos up to international standards, and before it was formed, the zoos were poorly managed and administered. It was constituted under Section 38A of the Wildlife Protection Act. The authority consists of a chairman, 10 members and a member secretary. The main objective of the authority is to complement the national effort in conservation of wildlife, and standards and norms for housekeeping, upkeep, healthcare and overall management of the animals in the zoos is also laid down by, and also it awards recognition of the zoos under the Recognition of Zoos Rules 1992. Every zoo in the country is to obtain a recognition from this body. The next most important issue is javelin player Neeraj Chopra was crowned the world champion. He clinched the maiden world champion title in Budapest with a throw of 88.17 meters, and he won a silver medal in the 2022 edition. He is the only third javelin thrower in the history to hold both Olympic and world championship titles, after Jan Zelensky of Czech Republic and Andreas of Norway. Zelensky clinched the Olympic gold in 1992, 1996, 2000, while winning the World Championship title in 1993, 1995 and 2001. And recently, Punjab governor had warned that he would recommend imposition of President's rule to the Punjab CM Bhagwat Mann. Let me tell you, President's rule is imposed under Article 356 and it can be imposed on any state on the grounds of failure of constitution machinery. There are two types: if the President receives a report from the governor of the state or is otherwise satisfied that the state situation is such that the state government cannot be carried on in accordance with the constitutional provisions. Article 365, as per the article, it says this President's rule can be imposed if the state fails to comply with all or any of the directions given by the union government with the matters that it is empowered to do. In simple words, President's rule is when the state government is suspended and the central government directly administers the state government through the office of the governor, who is centrally appointed by the President of India. It is also called a state emergency or constitutional emergency as well. And the 44th Amendment Act of the Constitution in 1978 brought in some constraints on the imposition of President's rule over a period of 1 year. It says that the President's rule cannot be extended beyond 1 year unless there is national emergency in the country. The Election Commission of India has to certify that the conditions are not conducive for conducting of assembly elections to that state. And what happens once the President's rule is imposed? The governor carries on the administration of the state on behalf of the President, and he or she takes the help of the administration of the state through the Chief Secretary and other advisors and administrators of the state. The President is empowered to declare the state legislative powers to be exercised by the Parliament, and the state legislative assembly would be suspended or dissolved by the President. When the Parliament is not in session, the President can promulgate ordinances with respect to the state administration. The next most important issue is the C-295 transport aircraft that was in news because India is procuring these aircrafts, and the first C-295 medium tactical transport aircraft was inducted into the Indian Air Force. The new generation of C-295 from Airbus is a highly versatile tactical transport that is tailored to mission the range of carrying troops to cargo to maritime patrol to signal intelligence and also medical evacuation, helping in disaster management. The C-295 aircraft is capable of carrying up to 9 tons of payload, as many as 71 troops at the maximum speed of 260 knots. And the Indian Air Force is procuring these to replace its age-old fleet of Avro 748 planes that were in the service 6 decades back. And the aircraft can also drop paratroops and loads and can be used for casual medical evacuation as well. The next most important issue is in 2016, Supreme Court in a verdict called as Tamil Nadu versus K of Balu said that the liquor shops cannot be held within 500 meters of the national and the state highway. This came up when the Supreme Court was questioning the state government of Kerala on an issue. In 2017, the court brought down the distance from 500 meters to 220 meters in the local body where the population is 20,000 or less. Now, alcohol regulation is specific in every state. Also, the age of consumption of alcohol is specific to every state. Article 47 of the Constitution mentions that it is one of the directive principles. It says that the state shall raise the level of nutrition and standard of living and to improve public health as among its primary duties, and in particular shall endeavour to bring about prohibition of intoxicating drinks and drugs. The next most important issue is about V20 against G20. So what exactly is V20? Now, over 70 organizations across the country held a People's Summit naming themselves as V20, WE20, or the organizations that are opposing the economic political agenda of G20. V20 decided to step up campaigns against G20. V20 decided to step up its campaigns against the policies of G20. They have drafted a 13 working papers on agriculture, climate change, banking, finance, labor, employment, and shrinking democratic places as well. And the next most important issue is with regard to Aditya L1, the first space-based observatory of ISRO to study the moon and its characteristics. So L1 is meant to study the moon. There is a payload on Aditya L1 called as PAPA or PAPA, the acronym which is spelled out as Plasma Analyzer Package for Aditya, one of the 7 scientific payloads. Please look into the payloads of Aditya L1, developed by the Space Physics Laboratory that will study the solar wind, a stream of charged particles that come from the sun. And Aditya L1, the first Indian space-based observatory to study the sun, was launched on September 2nd, 2003 from the Satish Dhawan Space Center in Sriharikota. Aditya L1 will continuously view the sun without any occultation or eclipse because it is going to be placed in the Lagrange point and provides greater observation of observing the solar activities without any obstruction. Aditya L1 carries 7 payloads to observe the photosphere, chromosphere, outer layer of the sun, that is the corona, using electromagnetic and particle detectors. Aditya L1 has a mission life of 5 years, during which its payloads are expected to provide the most crucial information to understand the problem of coronal heating, coronal mass ejection, pre-flare and flare activities and their characteristics, and dynamic space weather as well, and propagation of particles and the fields as well. So what is exactly Lagrange point in which the Aditya L1 is placed? So according to ISRO, there are two body gravitational system. For a two body gravitational system, the Lagrange point are the positions in space where the smaller object tends to stay if put there. These points in the space of the two body system, such as the sun and the earth, can be used by a spacecraft to remain in these positions and reduce the fuel consumption. For two body gravitational system, there are total 5 Lagrange points denoted as L1, L2, L3, L4 and N5. What is L1 point then, in which Aditya L1 is placed into? L1 lies between the sun-earth line, which is about 1.5 million kilometers from the earth. The distance of L1 from the earth is approximately 1% of the earth-sun distance. A satellite placed in the halo orbit around the L1 point has a major advantage because it can continuously view the sun without any occultation or eclipse. This will provide a greater advantage of observing the solar activities continuously. There are currently 4 operational spacecrafts at L1, which are WIND, W-I-N-D, Solar Heliospheric Observatory, SOHO, find out which country they belong to, Advanced Composition Explorer, and Deep Space Climate Observer, that is DISCOVER. And let's look at the next point now, that this is with regard to minorities. But before going into that, let me tell you that the Parliament provides 2 rights to the minorities and in the fundamental rights apart from the other rights as well. They are Article 29, which protects the interests of the minorities by making a provision that any citizen or section of the citizen having a distinct language, a script or a culture can have the right to conserve the same. Article 29 mandates that no discrimination can be done on the grounds of religion, race, caste, language or any of them. And Article 30 provides the minorities the right to establish and administer educational institutions. So recently there was a news about the minorities. Let me tell you that India has a home to 30 crore minorities. They are 6 in number, not mentioned or defined in the constitution. And they are defined under the National Commission of Minorities Act of 1992. Among them, Muslims make the largest. The others are Christians, the Buddhists, Jains, Parsis and the Sikh, along with the Muslims. So then UPA government and constituted the Sachar committee in 2006 to look into the status of the Muslims, and they had concluded that they are most neglected. In 2006, a new Ministry of Minorities was formed at the center, and the government implements the following important schemes. Recently these were in news because the Maulana Azad National Fellowship Scheme was stopped from the last 2 years. The other schemes that are provided for the minorities are the pre-metric scholarship scheme from class 1 to 10, post-metric scholarship scheme from class 11 to PhD, merit-cum-based scholarship scheme targeted for the undergraduate and the postgraduate courses, Maulana Azad National Fellowship Scheme for them to pursue their MPhil and the PhD, Padho Pardesh scheme for education abroad, the Begum Hazrat Mahal National Fellowship Scheme for the girls, the scheme for providing education to the madrasas and the minorities. And the next most important issue is about Supreme Court saying that Article 35A is unjust to many in Jammu and Kashmir. This it was speaking when it was deciding on the removal of Article 370, which provides a special status to Jammu and Kashmir and was included as a temporary provision from the Constitution recently. So the article which empowers Jammu and Kashmir legislature to define who will be a permanent resident of the state and also provides them special privileges, denies fundamental rights to others. It gave special rights and privileges privileges to the permanent residents and took away many of these rights from the non-residents. Supreme Court said that Article 35A gave special rights which were deprived to the citizens who were non-residents, and this created an artificial distinction among the population. So what exactly is Article 35A? Article 35A of the Indian Constitution empowers Jammu and Kashmir State Legislature to define who exactly will be permanent residents of the state, and also provide special rights and privileges to them which are not available to the Indian citizens in general. It is added by the Constitutional President Order of 1954 issued by the President of India under Article 370. Under the state's separate constitution, which is now defunct, permanent residents could purchase land and immovable property, vote and contest in elections, seek government employment, and avail of themselves of any other state benefits like higher education and healthcare. Non-permanent residents of the state, even if Indian citizens, are not privileged to have the above privileges which I just defined now. The provisions facilitated the Article 335A, and the state's permanent residence laws were criticized over the years for their discriminatory nature, including the hardships imposed on many immigrant workers, refugees from the West Pakistan, and the state's own female residents who could lose their permanent resident status marrying outside the state. On August 2019, President Ramnath Kovind issued a new presidential order whereby all the provisions of the Indian Constitution were made to apply to the state without any special provisions. This implied that the state's separate constitution stood inoperative, and including the privileges granted by Article 35A itself. So now there is no distinction between permanent residents and non-permanent residents as well. And the next most important issue is with regard to Dadia National Park. So this national park was in news because one, it was affected by wildfires in Europe, and it is a UNESCO heritage site. The wildfire, which was blamed for 20 out of 21 wildfire related deaths in Greece, is the biggest in the EU record starting from 2000, and Greece imposes wildfire prevention regulations typically starting from March to May and also to the end of October, limiting activities like burning of the dried vegetation, using of outdoor barbecues, etc. And this has affected the Dadia National Park, which is a UNESCO heritage site. Now, the national park Dadia Lefkimi Saufli National Park is an exceptional ecological significance at the European level, characterized by rich habitat mosaic on a network of low hills in a transitional climate zone between the Mediterranean climate and the continental climate. The DNP extends for about 42,800 hectares. Now, it is located at the easternmost edge of the huge forested area that extends all the way to the west and north along the Rhodope Mountains range, while the major forested areas are absent for hundreds of kilometers eastward. Now, the location of the DNP is one of the most important migration routes, especially for the birds of the western Palearctic, making the forest one of the few regions in Europe cohabited by these birds and bird species, where 3 out of 4 European species of vulture, neophron and gyps coexist with each other. And the next most important issue is with regard to United Nations body saying that children have the right to clean air and environment or healthy environment. Every person on this planet has a right to live in clean, healthy environment, declared the United Nations historic resolution. Climate change and environmental degradation are the most critical threats awaiting humanity, and this landmark development came up. This right is not included in the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights of 1948. This resolution came up. This resolution was adopted by 160 member states, including India, though it is not legally binding, but it will encourage all the countries. So it was adopted by the United Nations Committee on the Rights of Child, which implements the Convention on the Rights of Child. The resolution name is called as General Comment number 26 for 2023. It called all the countries and the states to recognize the right to children to live in clean environments, and this will pave the way for the government to include these rights in the constitution and also make laws for them and also programs for them. However, these resolutions are not binding on the member states. So this is one of the most important issue, and this was the last for the September. I shall see you tomorrow with my next September post for the upcoming UPSC preliminary examination, and I assure you we will complete all of them, even December, January, February till March 2024. And until then, it's very happy learning, and please do not forget to like, share, subscribe, and don't forget to comment as well. Thank you.